not balancing rights of victims, accused persons, according to Justice Minister. On the regional scene, case of COVID-19 BA.5 subvariant increasing rapidly in Trinidad and Tobago. On the international scene, Zelensky says Ukraine has significant potential to advance on the battlefield. And in sports, Sharika Jackson wins 200-meter gold. News in detail right after this. Now, now the news in detail. A St. James businessman was shot and killed during a daring attack by yet unknown assailants who pounced upon him while he was driving his car along the busy Rose Hall Main Road on Wednesday afternoon. The deceased was identified as 34-year-old Andre Young of a Lilliput St. James address. According to reports from the Corporate Communications Unit (CCU), the communications arm of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, about 2:30 p.m., Young was traveling in his motorcar towards Montego Bay when he was pounced upon by armed men who opened gunfire at his vehicle, hitting him several times to the upper body. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. No motive has so far been established for the killing. Meanwhile, the male police constable named as a person of interest in the disappearance of social media personality, 24-year-old Donnelly Donaldson, has retained the services of attorney Christopher Townsend. According to Townsend, the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, will question the constable about his involvement with the social media personality on August 3. The notice was served on Maitland to answer questions before INDECOM as the agency conducts a special investigation to determine if there are any grounds to suspect any member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force has contravened the law. Donaldson was reported missing on July 13, and according to police reports, on July 11, about 10 p.m., Donaldson was picked up at her house by the constable who is her boyfriend in a black BMW motorcar to spend the night with him at his apartment located in Kingston. However, on July 12, Donaldson's mother, Sophia Lugg, reported to the police that she had not seen or heard from her daughter since. Reports further indicated that the constable, who is the father of a child for a district constable at the Half-Way Police Station, told Lugg that Donaldson left his apartment on Tuesday, July 12, sometime after 11 a.m., and has not been seen or heard from since. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey, at a press conference on Monday, July 18, said the police have processed the cars of the missing woman's boyfriend and the mother of his child. Townsend expressed displeasure with how the police are conducting the investigation. Meanwhile, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has charged that human rights organization Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has not been balancing the rights of victims and accused persons. Mr. Chuck has urged JFJ to practice fair play in its utterances. Kate Ann Crooks tells us the details.
Addressing JFJ's Justice for All campaign in St. Andrew on Thursday, Mr. Chuck said the human rights advocacy group has been labeled as an organization that focuses primarily on the injustices done to offenders by state. He said this perception has encouraged criminals to feel that if they breach the law, they can always get various organizations to speak for them. Mr. Chuck warned that rights groups should be very careful of this kind of perception being fostered. He also suggested that matters with strong evidence could progress more quickly through the courts if there were fewer challenges. The Justice Minister argued that where people breach the law and there is good evidence to support that they have done so, they should naturally be brought to justice. He explained that they must get all the advice, all the representation that is needed so they can have a fair play and have their day in court. But what has happened now is that the courts are so overwhelmed, so overburdened, that when people try to go to court to get justice, it's almost an impossible task. From the Suncity News Center, I'm Kadine.
You're listening to Morning News on Suncity 104.9 FM. The time is now 7 minutes after 7, and we continue with regional news. The Omicron BA.5 subvariant discovered a little over a week ago in Trinidad and Tobago is responsible for a rapid increase in COVID-19 infections, according to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Parasram on Wednesday. He said at a Ministry of Health COVID-19 news conference that as Omicron continues to be the dominant variant of concern in Trinidad and Tobago, the BA.5 subvariant has overtaken the BA.4 and was close to the BA.2 in terms of the number of cases detected. He said the BA.2 of the Omicron sublineages remains the dominant for now at 45.5% of the samples that were recently taken. BA.4 was detected prior to BA.5, but only accounts for 9.1% of the recent Omicron samples, and BA.5 seemed to be the most infectious of the lot and was detected in 41% of last week's sample. Parasram said the Omicron BA.5 subvariant is possibly the most transmissible COVID-19 variant thus far. It has been detected in almost 90 countries around the world, and it has been identified as being responsible for new waves of COVID-19 outbreaks, noting that there is no evidence that the BA.5 subvariant results in more severe illnesses, only more easily transmissible. Parasram said that some of the BA.5 cases in Trinidad and Tobago are reinfections. According to the CMO, another element of people being reinfected is a waning immunity over time, and most of these studies have shown that after a primary series that a booster should be had after 6 months, and after your first booster, especially for the vulnerable, you go 4 to 6 months and then you have a second booster shot. While BA.5 is classified as an Omicron variant, it has mutations that distinguish it from the subvariants such as BA.1 and BA.2. The 3 key mutations in its spike protein make it both better at infecting human cells and more adept at slipping past immune defenses. On the international scene, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his national security team believes we have a significant potential for the advance of our forces on the front and for the infliction of significant new losses on the occupiers. We have more from Maya Chang.
Zelensky was speaking in his daily video message after meeting with intelligence chiefs, the armed forces commander, and the interior and defense ministers. We defined tasks in some tactical areas to strengthen our positions, and we also thoroughly worked out the issue of providing the troops with the modern weapons. The intensity of attacks on the enemy still needs to be increased, Zelensky said. He said that his chief of staff and armed forces commander had another conversation with the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley. And tomorrow we also expect news for our state from Turkey regarding the unblocking of our ports, Zelensky said. Listing places struck by Russian artillery and rocket forces Thursday, Zelensky said each strike is an argument for Ukraine to receive more HIMARS and other modern and effective weapons. He also welcomed a proposed resolution in the U.S. Senate that would recognize Russia's actions against Ukraine as genocide. From the Suncity News Center, I'm Maya Chung.
Still on the international scene, as the World Health Organization's Emergency Committee convened Thursday to consider for the second time within weeks whether to declare monkeypox a global crisis, some scientists said the striking differences between the outbreaks in Africa and in developed countries will complicate any coordinated response. African officials say they are already treating the continent's epidemic as an emergency. But experts elsewhere say the mild version of monkeypox in Europe, North America, and beyond make an emergency declaration unnecessary even if the virus can't be stopped. British officials recently downgraded their assessment of the disease given its lack of severity. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus told the emergency committee as its meeting got underway that he remains concerned about the number of cases in an increasing number of countries that have been reported. He said it was pleasing to note falling numbers of monkeypox cases in some countries, but that the virus is still increasing elsewhere and that 6 countries reported their first infections last week. Monkeypox has entrenched for decades in parts of Central and Western Africa, where diseased wild animals occasionally infect people in rural areas in relatively contained epidemics. This disease in Europe, North America, and beyond has circulated since at least May among gay and bisexual men. The epidemic in rich countries was likely triggered by sex at 2 raves in Spain and Belgium. Some experts worry these and other differences could possibly deepen existing medical inequities between poor and wealthy nations. There are now more than 15,000 monkeypox cases worldwide. In sports news, Sharika Jackson gave the Jamaican women another gold in the sprints with an easy victory in the 200 meters on day 7 of the 2022 World Athletics Championships in Eugene, Oregon on Thursday night. She ran a time of 21.45 seconds, a national record and the second fastest time in history to beat her teammate, 100-meter champion Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce by 0.16 seconds. Fraser-Pryce ran a season's best time of 21.81 seconds. The previous Jamaican record of 21.53 seconds was held by Elaine Thompson-Era. Defending champion Dina Asher-Smith of Britain won the bronze with a time of 22.02 seconds, while Olympic champion Thompson-Era, who won bronze in the 100-meter, finished 7th in a time of 22.39 seconds. Jackson said her victory was fueled by a mistake at last year's Olympics, where she slowed down in the curve and finished 4th in her preliminary heat. She called it a silly mistake. Meanwhile, American Noah Lyles defended his title, leading a USA clean sweep of the event.
In a world of price increases, isn't it good that there is a place to escape? Shop on credit at Singer and get furniture, appliances, and electronics on a payment plan that you can afford. Get 4 months for cash, 9 months no interest, or up to 36 months to pay. Singer, a plan for every pocket. Credit made easy. Shop today. The time brought to you by Singer is...
The time is now 7:15 a.m. and we continue with business news. Net remittances to Jamaica declined in May. The Bank of Jamaica says remittance inflows were valued at $271.2 million, a 6.7% reduction compared to last year. Total net remittance inflows for January to May amounted to $1.3 billion. That was $38 million, or 3% lower when compared to the same period in 2021. The U.S. remained the main source market for remittance inflows, with 70.7% of funds coming from that jurisdiction. In foreign exchange trading news, the day's foreign exchange traded ended with $1 retailing for $153.33. The Canadian closed the trading day at $124.20, while the pound sterling ended the day at $182.19. Now to end this newscast, we take a look at the main stories once more. On the local scene, businessman shot on busy roadway in St. James. Indicom to question male cop in a disappearance of influenza. JFJ not balancing rights of victims and accused persons, according to Justice Minister. Cases of COVID-19 BA.5 subvariant increasing rapidly in Trinidad and Tobago. On the international scene, Zelensky says that Ukraine has significant potential to advance on the battlefield. And in sports, Sharika Jackson wins gold in the 200 meter. And that's it for news and sports from the Suncity News Center at this time. Do join us again at midday for more news on this station. Do remember to follow us on our socials on Instagram and Twitter. Look for us at Suncity104.9 FM and on Facebook at Suncity Radio104.9 FM. I'm Jada Francis from the Suncity News Center. Do stay tuned for more right here on the Suncity Morning Show.
That was the morning news on the Suncity Morning Show.
Excuse, pass me cellular phone. Pull out me digital SIM card.